John, let me start there with reputation with Ndamukong Suh and maybe put it into your world. When you were disciplined, do you think you were disciplined on the actual what you did, or was it reputation?
I think it was both. I mean, some of it was deserved, some of it was reputation. Certainly, the better you are, the more you seem to be able to get away with. So that's an incentive for all athletes. But in that game, you cross the line and you really injure someone pretty badly. So I think they got to crack down harder on situations like that.
Can you change though? Can I change Ndamukong Suh and tell him to play differently, act differently?
Obviously football is totally different than tennis. It's a much more violent game, and it's you're going against someone, trying to hit someone, which we don't do in tennis, which is much more of a mental game. But I would hope and think that this guy, if he wants to continue playing for the next 10 years, would be able to make some minor adjustments, smooth the edges a bit. I think that would be a shame if what I would think wouldn't be that difficult to sort of pull back that little bit and play smarter. I would say that would ultimately be on him if he wasn't able to make that adjustment.
But sometimes, what is your detriment is also your strength. That sometimes, like, your emotions probably did help you at times, where Ndamukong Suh playing with that kind of emotion can also help you. So
well, I agree with that, but I'll take it a step further and tell you that eventually it starts hurting you. In my case, towards the end of my career, particularly when I had a couple of kids of my own, it seemed like what I was doing was a little shallow to me and almost like just a bad habit, like a cigarette smoker that couldn't stop. And to me, I think it's become counterproductive with him. People are watching him much more carefully than even college, and he started out so well, and it seems to me like, he's asking for trouble, and he just thinks he can keep doing the same thing. And I think his career is going to be much, much shorter unless he gets his act together.
He's John McEnroe joining us, Dan Patrick Show. How are you, by the way?
I'm doing well. It was a long couple of weeks, but it's a great event. I mean, I get to stay home. It's in New York. I live here. It's awesome. It ended pretty spectacularly with Serena winning, but the men was, for a couple hours, it was some of the greatest tennis I'd ever seen. And unfortunately, when somehow, some way, Nadal stole that third set, Djokovic tapped out and wasn't able to keep up that intensity. And it was sort of a disappointing way to end it, even though it was still, for the most part, a great final.
We like to put the label of greatest ever, and I saw where you're saying Nadal has the chance, given his age, the number of Grand Slam events he's won, or Serena where she is and trying to catch Steffi Graf for the number of Grand Slams. But how would you define, what is your criteria for saying somebody is the greatest ever men's and women's tennis?
Well, the greatest ever, obviously, Rod Laver is always going to be considered one of the greats. He was my idol along with a lot of other people. I think the greatest fast court player is Pete Sampras. I think the greatest all-around player right now was Roger Federer, but I think it's now Rafael Nadal, and I base it on head-to-heads. I mean, for example, in that tournament, there was not a single seeded player in that draw that he didn't have a winning record against. He's got a pretty significant winning record, 21-10 against Federer. He's won all four of the majors at least one time, like Roger. He's won an Olympics, which Roger hasn't won. He's won 3 Davis Cups, which is where you represent your country. Roger hasn't won any of those. And I don't think you can base it solely on the amount that people get. I mean, obviously that's extremely important. But Rod Laver, during 5 or 6 years of his prime, wasn't allowed to play any of the tournaments because he turned professional. So clearly, had he played, if you think about the fact that he won the Grand Slam in 1962 and then won it again 7 years later, and for 5 of those years couldn't play any of the events whatsoever, I would have thought he would have won at least 10 of them. So that would have put him at 21. It's a little, and in my day, a lot of the top players didn't even play in the Australian Open. It sort of lost its luster. It was at a point where they were offering me, early in my career, guarantees to play a major event. So things have changed quite a bit. I give them credit for sort of bringing that tournament back to life. And if anything, the Grand Slams have gotten bigger than ever, so people are looking at that as an important part of it, which it is. But year-end rankings is part of it, and consistency over time. But to me, Nadal is, there's a great argument for him being already. I already think Serena's the best female player I've ever seen. I think she's got more to offer, more options than Steffi did, even though Steffi was an incredible athlete too. And I think Rafael at this stage can do more things than Roger can do or perhaps could do. He's more comfortable at net. He's more comfortable moving forward. And he's able to hurt Roger more than Roger was able to hurt him.
Last time when I saw you in London, you said the number of people come up and said, "Hey, heard you with Nirvana playing Nirvana on Dan Patrick's show." How often do you play your guitar, by the way?
I try to pick it up every day. During an event like the Open, people get sort of annoyed if I bring it out there. They think that I'm hogging their atmosphere and space, so I don't do that.
Yeah.
And it's a long day, so I don't get that much of a chance to play the guitar, but I try to get up and play it a little bit every day, whether it's early in the morning before I go to the tennis academy or later on at night before I settle down, watch a couple sports highlights, and hit the sack. So that's pretty much where it's at. I don't get the chance to play as much as I'd like because I'd like to play with people. I did for so many years I was playing tennis on my own. So it's nice for me to play with other people, like my friends, part of a group. That's the part I missed a lot in tennis, the way you can have great teammates in football or basketball, et cetera.
Did you bring your guitar?
So I missed that part a little bit. I was actually someone who liked that.
Where's your guitar?
My guitar is somewhere in the area if you
all right, what do you
feel the need for me to break it open again. Although I do have to go on speakerphone, and so
that's fine.
Your producer was upset that I may be on speakerphone, but I think that could be the only way you could hear me. Is that okay?
Yeah, as we're getting set up here, the band that you would love to play with now.
Well, I'm going to play a song. This probably would be the band I would love to play with now would be the Foo Fighters. So I'm going to play a verse and a chorus and a verse from one of their songs.
All right, here we go. Here's
so
John.
You give me a second here. It's called Times Like These, and it hopefully goes something like this, and hopefully Dave Grohl won't be listening.
All right, here's John.
Hold on 1 second.
Okay, I got to give you an introduction here. All right, so John McEnroe, who's
Can you hear me?
Yeah, but hold on for a second here. John, who's joining us.
Turn me up or down, depending on what you want to do.
All right. Here's John McEnroe with Foo Fighters.
You all set?
Yep.
All right. There you go.
Man, I give you credit. I couldn't do it, but I give you credit. You play with spirit, passion. I love that.
Well, I appreciate that. So, that's why it's a great thing to sort of give it a shot. Hopefully you have some magical equipment there, to make it sound a little bit better and not out of tune.
Yeah. I know you're working with Dove. I'll let you get that plug in before I let you go.
Well, I appreciate that because, some partnerships don't make sense, but I suppose Dove Men Plus Care and myself do make sense because, one, I love the New York City Marathon, and because of what happened last year and the fact that they didn't even have it, I think it's, brings on some extra importance that they're having it. And I think it's nice, obviously. We all know you need sponsors for big events, and I guess this is a stretch, but I guess Dove Men's Plus Care, which their sort of mantra is anti-irritation, somehow they made this connection that John McEnroe and Dove Men Plus Care made sense. It's a huge stretch.
Yeah, it is.
They figured if they could get the irritated guy more relaxed, that would be a good thing. So I'm going to be there during the marathon coaching some people that have been picked by Dove Men Plus Care, and it's going to be great to be around that event. I mean, it's one of the best events we have in the city.
DoveMenCare.com for more on the videos that John appears in. Good to talk to you again, Johnny. Thank you.
And good talking to you.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.